I know you would love to make your own Rubik's Cube which can run and dance. I made this tutorial so that even the beginners can follow. The step 1 is modeling the mechanical parts. We will model just the 3 parts and later from this whole mechanism can be constructed. So to start with, we will take a cylinder with 24 vertices. You can take higher if you want. I will delete everything except just this face. So press Ctrl I to invert and press X for the faces. I will select these edges and just extrude them out like this, but they are not straight. To make them straight, I will just have to press S and scale them on the X-axis by pressing X and then press 0 to straighten them and enter. Extrude them again, move in the X like this. Now to finish it off, I will just duplicate this face onto the other side and just bridge these edges by right clicking and bridge edges. It's kind of flat and there are kind of no details. So press Ctrl R, add an edge loop right here, right click to reset it to its original position. Press Ctrl B to bevel it. I will select these 2 edges and again bevel them and give more edges in between by scrolling and just leaving it like that. Now we can add some details here. Just select these vertices and move them up like this. I can do the same for the below one. So it looks something like this. Now it's flat, so let's give it some depth. Press E to extrude it. Now as I've shown in the beginning that there will be 3 parts which we are required to make. The 2 parts can just directly be made from this single one. For that we have to just duplicate it and put it in the center. I will just duplicate this, move it on the Y-axis, go into edit mode, selecting this face, Shift S, select cursor to the selected. Now it's in the center of that. After that what I will do is go out, right click on it, set origin to 3D cursor. Now it's in the center of these faces. Only thing left to do is just press Shift S again and cursor to the world origin. Now our cursor is back to the world origin. What we only have to do is now selecting this object, press Shift S, selection to the cursor. Now it's in the center of the world. This one will be rotating from the middle, so it's going to be a little bit thicker. So in edit mode, I will select everything and scale on the Y-axis like this. But one thing that we have to do is adjust the position. So go into the edit mode, select everything and then move it, so the origin stays at the world origin. One more thing that I want to apply right away is the bevel modifier and apply it. Now let's just decrease the amount a little and increase segment to 2. To get rid of this hard faces, right click and shade smooth. Now but that looks like shit. To correct it, we will do is go to the bevel and in the shading click on harden normals. Well, that didn't do anything. What we actually finally have to do is go to the object data properties and here in the normals click on auto smooth. That will fix everything for us. Repeat the same for the middle one as well. The last thing we have to do is just to mirror this to the opposite side. So add a mirror modifier and set the axis to the Z. To make this one a little look different, what we'll do is just go to the wireframe. In this view, I will just do is just shift these to left a little. Now the basic idea is this to move freely between. That is the basic idea. Finally, I will apply some details on the outer side of this mesh. Inset this face by pressing A and then extrude it out. Then again inset, extrude, add some details as you like. That will apply on the other side as well because it's being mirrored. So like that, add some more details on your own, don't just copy me. Now only the one part remains, which is the hook. Making that also is really easy. So I'll just duplicate this mesh right here, rotate it so it's standing like that. Go to edit mode and wireframe. I will just make it shrink a lot. By a lot mean a lot. So it looks something like this, but it's overlapping with our previous mechanism. To fix that, what we'll do is just in edit mode, selecting all, I will just move them out. I will move it out so on the Y-axis so it fits it properly like this, and then it looks perfect. To finish this off, I'll add some more details. And finally, I'll add a cylinder inside the edit mode, of course. Scale it down, move it up. So this becomes the part which gets attached. Bevel it, then again selecting these edges, I will bevel them again. And finally selecting these faces, scale them inside. So this part will be the part where it will be holded. I extruded it even more to make a double hook. To make our hook, that's gonna be also really simple. Let's add a cylinder to our scene, bring it up so we can see it properly. Selecting both the faces, go to the top view, press I to inset, adjust till you match the hook. Now I will click right click and bridge faces. In edit mode, selecting everything, scale it down. Now this is kind of a very fat for a hook, so scale it in. Apply the same bevel modifier on this as well. Now selecting the faces on the back of our mesh to the top view and extrude them out. So it is similar to what we did for the starting object. And again, scale them on the x-axis and press 0. Extrude it out a little bit more like that. Add an edge loop right here. Selecting the faces on the bottom here, I will extrude them down like that. We can adjust the height later as well. To make it a double hook, that's going to be really easy. Going to the wireframe mode, selecting all the faces for this hook part, and we will just duplicate them by pressing Shift D, moving them up right here and adjust it so it fits the hook. Then the next step would be to add an edge loop right here, bevel it of course, go back to the solid view and delete these faces. I will just select these and right click and bridge faces. We'll add a little bit of more detail right here, selecting the front faces of our object and extrude them out. Add some more details to make it look interesting. Well, that doesn't matter because we won't be able to see it much, but it's a good practice to make detailed version. Now finally, we are going to extrude a part from right here because this part will get hooked to the double mechanism. We will know why later. After extruding it out, I'll press Shift S and cursor to the selected and then add a sphere here, UV sphere. Now our all three parts are ready. We'll have to just lay it out for our mechanism. So first of all, I'm going to apply all the modifiers on our all the objects. Now I just lay it out just manually. So I'm just laying it out manually for now and duplicate this one and place it here. So it looks something like this. Now our tower is kind of a big, so I will adjust it for that cause. Now we have to make sure that they are exactly in the center of each other. It's really simple. What you have to do is go to the edit mode, select this face right here and this face right here, Shift S, cursor to selected. As the cursor is at the center of that object, what we can do is now just select this object whose origin point is here. That won't be an issue. So I'll just Shift S and selection to cursor. Now it's right snapped there and it's perfectly in the middle. So only thing I have to do is just to rotate it around like that. Now again in the edit mode, I'll select this, go to wireframe, make sure the right faces are selected and Shift S, cursor to selected. Exactly snap the origin of this to the 3D cursor which is snapped to the center of these faces. Select this, Shift S, selection to cursor. Now it's snapped at the exactly center of that. I will just make a duplicate of this and place it just about right there. This one doesn't have to be perfect, it just have to be at the center of this. But it's going through it, so we can adjust it. Just select it, press L and it will select the linked faces to it. Scale it on Y like that and now it's not going through and now it looks really good. So the double mechanism is ready. The only thing we have to fix is this one. This won't be facing from the ground but from the top. So I will just rotate it on the x-axis by 180 degree. Then just move it up like that and make it even more smaller. So we get a complete mechanism like this. Alright, step 2, which is rigging this mechanism. After this step, you will get something like this, which is really cool. If you really want to learn it properly, you can just download my blend file in the description and just rig with me step by step. Let's just press Shift S and cursor to the wall origin. Now let's add an armature which is a single bone and it's way too big for that. Let's just reduce its size. The first issue that we'll get is we won't be able to see it sometime through our object. So selecting the bone, I will go to the armature properties and here in the viewport display,
by enabling the name, it will help us see the name of that particular bone and also renaming it. Enabling the axis will give us the XYZ axis of that particular bone. And the most important thing is enabling the in front. After enabling it, the bone will always be in front of any mesh or any object. Now the work starts by giving one bone to each of the mechanism so we can control every one of them with the bone.
For the first bone, it doesn't matter where it is belonging, you can just keep it here, no matter what. I will just keep this here. Extruding a bone is same as extruding any mesh. So by pressing the tab, you can enter the edit mode and selecting this ball right here, you can adjust. And also by pressing E, you can extrude it. I will extrude it on the Z axis downward like that. Right now, I'm just eyeballing. Right here, I will just extrude it right till here, then extrude on the Y axis till here. So I will follow along. Now comes the time to actually place it in the perfect place. So basically I will just go to this object. Now let's just solo it by pressing the / and go to the edit mode again and select these faces inside, pressing Shift S and cursor to the selected. Going back out by pressing the / we are back from the isolated mode. Now what we have to simply do is selecting the armature, go into edit mode, select this particular ball and press Shift S and selection to the cursor. Now it's snapped to the perfectly center of that object. Same we have to do for this one. So just select this, go into edit mode, selecting this face, press Shift S, cursor to selected. Now it's in the center as you can see. Go out of the edit mode, selecting the bone, again go into the edit mode, selecting this and just press Shift S, selection to cursor. We have to just repeat the same for every one of them. For this one, do is just select all these vertices but select them in the wireframe, Shift S, cursor to selected, go out, selecting the bone armature again, selecting this bone, Shift S, selection to cursor. Now we have to repeat it for every one of them. Now that we are done with that, the final thing that we have to do is just parent everything to that particular bone. Parenting it is really simple. Select the object, then select the armature by pressing the Shift, so both are selected. Now while the armature is still selected, press Tab, it will enter edit mode, select that particular bone. Now that bone is selected. What you have to do is just go back out by pressing the tab and press Ctrl P and select bone. And if we switch to pose bone now, with this bone moving, the object will follow it. Select the object, select the armature, go into edit mode, select the bone, go out, Ctrl P, bone. Repeat it. For this one right here, I will parent this to the bone 005. After you're done parenting, make sure to check back your armature if it's working properly. To check, you have to go to the pose mode and check by rotating everything if it's working properly. It's time to add the power of constraints, which is the step 3. Pose mode is always used to apply constraints to any bone. We want a controller for our bone. So I will extrude this on the X like this by pressing F2. I will name this IK_small and I will make sure this is not parented to anything. I will clear its parent by pressing Alt P, clear parent, switch to pose mode by pressing Ctrl Tab. It's free to move. Now selecting this and lastly selecting the previous bone, I will press Shift I. It will give you the option to apply inverse kinematics and click on to active bone. Now the inverse kinematic constraint has been applied to our mechanism and it will give this wonderful effect. There are 3 to 4 issues. First issue you can see is the illogical movement of this mechanism. They are supposed to move in a particular axis, not in all of the axes. So to fix that, that is really easy. But before that, I want the bones to be clearly visible to me. I will go to the armature data again. In the viewport display, just change the display from octahedral to sticks. Now it's more clearly visible. First thing we have to do is figure out which bone will rotate on which axis. We want this bone to only rotate on the Y axis. As you can see, that's why I enable the axis this bone, so we can figure out. Selecting this bone, will head to the bone data properties and here we'll get a section called inverse kinematics. In here we can lock a particular bone in a particular axis. So we want to lock, just click on X at the Z and you are done. Let's just also lock this bone. One way we don't want that bone to be moving is that we can select this bone which has the IK constant, which is giving this beautiful mechanical effect. So selecting this bone with the IK constant, you can see the bone constraint tab. You will get the option of chain length. 0 means infinite. To reduce it, we'll just have to change the number. So let's see how much we want. As you can see, there's a dotted line appearing which is telling us how long is that chain actually right now. So let's just try increasing it a bit more, and that's about 10. That should do it. It won't affect that bone there if we move it. And now this bone is also moving on only the y-axis. We have to figure out this for the bone 002 and 003, 004. These will only move on the same axis, which is the z-axis. So selecting these bones, also these ahead as well, and go to the bone data in inverse kinematics, press Alt and then click on the X and Y. So we don't have to go to every single bone and apply it. As you can see, it's working beautifully. Just make sure to apply the same lock axis to this one as well, which is only the Y. So the problem we are getting right now is this bone moving even if its axes are locked. We have quite a nice solution for that. So I will just reduce the chain length of this one to about 4 till this bone, so it only moves till here, and go back into edit mode, selecting this one, extrude it out, and rename this bone to IK_big. Naming them is very crucial. Selecting this IK big, selecting the previous bone, but in the pose mode, shift I to active bone, and it has applied a IK constant to it. We have to set the length to 4. One issue is there, it's not working. Why is that? Because this is currently parented to this bone and this bone is following this bone, so it's creating a loop and there's no result. So let's go back into edit mode, selecting the IK big, press Alt P and clear the parent. Now let's try moving it pose and pose mode. Now it's working. Whenever we want to move this IK small, we want this IK big to follow as well. For that, we have a simple powerful constraint again. Selecting this IK big, go to bone constraint tab. Here you can see the copy location. Now I will select the armature. It will give me the target as armature. Now we have to select the bone as well. Now there are a lot of bones, that's why we named them properly. So I will select IK small and it is following it, but that's not the right way to follow. To fix that, we have to change the target to local space and owner to local space as well. Now if we try to move it, it will follow along, but still there is quite a bizarre issue. To fix that, selecting the bone which has the IK constant applied, change its influence to 0.6, and that should give us a result like this. But still our pillar is still rotating. To fix that, let's go into edit mode, just duplicate this bone right here and scale it, but scale it on individual origin. You can just change it from here as well, individual origin, and scale it. I will name this bone subscribe. Alright, and the second bone which is just below it, I'll just select it again, so it will select the bone in the background. As you can see, this is the previous bone, and I will rename it to my channel, and now subscribe my channel is here. Now right now both the bones are following the armature which has the IK constraint, but I don't want one bone to not follow, which is the my channel. So what I will do is just press Alt P and clear parent, so it's separate from it. So I want my channel to always follow the subscribe. Go into the pose mode, selecting the my channel bone and go to the bone constraint. Here copy location and select my armature. Here I should search for subscribe. I want my channel bone to follow the subscribe bone, which is following this bone. Let it be the world space, that's alright. Try moving the IK big. As you can see, our my channel bone is following only the location of subscribe. This subscribe bone was actually following everything, which was rotation, scale and location. Let's just select this IK big and press Alt G to reset to original position. Now if you move this IK small, we'll get something like this. Let's just check it from different direction as well. Now this part is the most important part, guys, which is the step for rigging our whole body. Now we would like to create multiple legs using this. If we add a cube to the scene, we want this mechanism to be at the corner of our cube, so that's why we want to rotate it 45 degrees. But you will see the snaky behavior of our mechanism. That doesn't happen. What we actually have to do is just turn off all the constraints.
Now that is done. Now we can rotate our mechanism by 45 degree, press Ctrl A and apply pose as the rest pose. To make other instances, first we have to duplicate the armature, not the objects. So what we will just do is go into the edit mode, duplicate it and rotate it by 90 degree. Now make sure after you have rotated it, press Ctrl A and apply pose as rest pose. You have to repeat this for 2 more times. Shift to duplicate. We have another one, right click to reset its original position. Go out to the pose mode. Now rotate it on the Z axis by another 90 degree and enter and Ctrl A, apply pose as rest pose. Shift duplicate, right click, go into the pose mode, rotate it and 90 degree and Ctrl A, apply pose as rest pose. So you might be wondering why we are rotating it on the pose mode, not why in the edit mode. So if you go into edit mode, shift duplicate it and then try to rotate in edit mode only, you can see the axis that they rotate around has changed and it has created disturbing result. Now one more thing we have to do is duplicate our mesh armature as well. I'll just hide the bones for now, but before we just rotate our mesh, what we have to do is in object mode, select all the mesh, press Alt P and clear parents and keep transform, because if you duplicate the mesh it will duplicate the armature as well, which will be different armature but not a one. Using here in the drop down viewport overlays, go uncheck bones. Selecting this, shift to duplicate, rotate on the Z axis 90 degree and left click. Now just press Shift R so the command just repeats itself. Now let's just enable the bones. And to finish it up, you have to just parent each and every object to each and every single bone in this mechanism. And don't forget to turn on all the constraint after you are done parenting. Now we are going to make the 3 important things in our rig. The first one being the root bone, which will move everything. So while we are in the edit mode, I will just add a bone by pressing Shift A and that will directly add just a single bone in the center where the 3D cursor is. I will rename that by pressing F2 and name it root bone. Now duplicate it and move it up where all the armatures are. And then I will name this bone as body. This bone will help us control the armatures and move the body up and down. After that, selecting all the top bones in the mechanism chain. Then lastly select the body bone and press Ctrl P and parent. Now as you can see, all the armature is moving with our body bone. Now the main thing is the root bone. So it should be able to move everything on every axis, even rotate it, scale it and whatever it can do. First we have to parent the body bone to the root bone so that it always follows. After that we have to parent each and every single IK handles, IK small and IK big handles to our root bone as well. Also the bone mic channel in all the legs, we have to parent that as well to our root bone. And after that, if you see the result of moving the root bone or even rotating it, you will see it's following properly. If you're not sure which bone is selected, just check the left top corner. It says my channel bone is selected. If you click again, you can see it's subscribe selected. That way you can confirm which bone is selected. Final part of this step 4 is making a body. To make the body of a Rubik's Cube, you basically need a cube, of course. So let's just add a cube. So what we can do is go to edit mode, move it on the Z axis, Ctrl to snap, and that should do. Now I can just scale it like that. For now I don't need these bones for now because we are just currently modeling it out. So let's just hide the bones again. Before we move ahead, let's just apply a temporary material on it. We'll give this material that glass effect as you saw in the start. Go into edit mode, add edge loops by pressing Ctrl R, scroll to increase and add it in same way every other place, which is the X, Y and Z. So it has now become almost a Rubik's Cube. Next step is to select all the edges by pressing A, of course, and then Ctrl B to bevel them. Now what I will do is just basically select this line in between from every place. After it is selected, I will again bevel it. After that we have to switch to face mode, Alt E, extrude face along normals, and just about that. One more thing I would like to do is add an edge loop in between for everyone. I'll select these 3 faces, select more or less and more. It will select more and
Again, if you press Shift R, it will repeat the command one more time and one more time. Now we are right here. So if we press P and click on selection, it will separate this part. So this will become the leg part of it. For the rest, I will just do the same, but I will not separate them. I will just delete these faces because I can just duplicate that one. For now, let's just hide the body. Now we have to make another part of it. So go to wireframe and let's see where our joint is connecting. So it's right about there. Press Ctrl R, add a edge loop just about at that height, and add two more on the right and the left side. Select this face, press P and separate the selection, so you get something like this. So finally, let's just make a duplicate of them and give it to others as well. Parent this one to this pillar, but to parent this to the eye-case ball bone. Now I only want the bones which I want to control and just get rid of useless bones. So there's a simple option, go to the bone layers. There are collections of bones. So this one is, I will change the name to control, and then I will name this as dog underscore bone. Now I'll just select the bones which I don't want exactly. Selecting them is very tricky. Select these and then go to the control and click on remove, and now you see that dot disappear. If you click on the dog bone and now click on assign, the dot has appeared. I just want these bones to just disappear. So for that, there's easily just click on the eye icon and they just disappear. Now it's way cleaner, helps us easily to control our rig. Now the next thing I would actually love to do is create the animation of this bot. Add a curve. Select the ball again, Shift S and cursor to select it. Now go out of edit mode, selecting this curve, I will press Shift S and selection to cursor. Now it's snapped to there. I will go into edit mode and delete this bottom vertices, pressing X and delete, and straighten these out. Now they are rotating weirdly because their pivot point is different. I'll set to individual, rotate again. Now we will add a empty. Let's go out of the pose mode, add a empty to our scene. We will use this plain empty and then select the curve and press Ctrl P and click on follow path. Now it should follow the path, but you can see there are some issues. We can easily fix that. Let's just go to the side view and just move it, and by watching the dotted line where it is going, you have to just move it just about right there. First thing that I would like to change is the speed. So select the curve, we have to go to a different panel which is called the graph editor. Here while the curve is selected, you will see some different options. So if we go into the modifiers, here you will see some options called coefficient and x to the power 1. I don't know if it's power, but it's something like that. So the first thing is to offset our object, which is the empty, and the second one is to increase the speed. So if I change it to something like it will increase its speed. And finally what we have to do is just select our bone in pose mode, add a copy location and select this empty. And if you move our body control up, you can see that. How cool is that? Now we have to repeat the same for each and every one. Well, that is really easy. First, let's just turn off this copy location or just reduce the influence. We set the position of our bone, which is the body control, by pressing Alt G. Select the curve and our empty. We'll just duplicate it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and about there. That means we have to just place it here for all the bones. Now on the x-axis, by pressing the X and pressing Ctrl to snap. After that, we have to just apply same modifier to every one of them and select the empty for each of them. Now they are all ready to go, but one issue we have is that we have to go to every bone, then change the influence so that it starts working and change it for everyone. Why not have a single bone control all of them? So let's just go into the edit mode by selecting this body control. I will duplicate it and move at the top of our Rubik's Cube head. This one is parented to the root control as well because this was parented
which is the body control, which is parented to the root control. So we made a duplicate of this one, so basically it will inherit the same parenting. Let's just rename this to settings. In the settings, go into the pose mode. In the bone data properties, in the last section you will see a section called custom properties. Now click on new and you will get this prop. Let's click on the gear, change the name to walk_follow. Click on OK. Now if we select this bone and change to the item and click on the properties, you can see we get this option. Next, what we have to do is right click on this and copy data path to the bone which has the copy location applied. What we will do is just click on the influence, right click and add a driver. Change this to average value and here change to single property. Now we get this eyedropper. In the eyedropper we have to select the bone which is the armature, so it will select the whole armature. After that we have to define which particular bone. It's not going to directly define itself that what we are actually looking for. So again go to edit driver and here in the path we will paste the path we copied from our setting bones. So we'll press Ctrl V, then update dependencies. If I select this bone and change the value, it is affecting that. Now we have to do this for every IK small handles. Don't worry, there is a fast way. Where we have already applied the driver, we'll just right click and copy driver. Select the other one and on the influence right click, paste driver. Now it's automatically working and paste driver. But next problem is that they are in a proper sync, which is not possible until and unless it's a bunny. So I've already told you where to offset it, which is this coefficient. You have to select the curve, go into the graph editor and here change the coefficient. To change the coefficient you have to take in consideration the frames. This frames is telling us after how much frames there is a complete one cycle. So after 100 frames the one cycle is completed. So if we divide the 100 to each one of them, so we'll set this one to 0 in the coefficient, this one to 25, that one to 50 and that one to 75. So let's see how it looks after that. It's running and it looks good, but there is something weird with it. The body is as stable as there's nothing happening. For this body control we are going to add some nice things to it. Into edit mode I will duplicate this body control, move it down and I will rename this noise. One more thing that you might miss, if I try to move my root control, everything will follow except the curve. So we'll make sure that the curves are parented to our root control. If you move it, they are working. With the noise control, what we are basically going to do is press I and insert a keyframe on the location and rotation. I'm not going to apply any noise on any location except Y. Let's just delete this. For rotation I will apply only on X and Z. For now let's just apply the noise on the Y location. So it's walking really fast, so there will be so much of a movement of the main head, so that should be enough. You have to just edit out the settings depending upon how fast your legs are going. Actually, it is really better to actually see what the noise is doing to the main body. By pressing Alt H, I'll unhide it, go to the pose mode, selecting the body control. I will apply modifier, which will be of course copy location, and select this noise body. And then we have to select which bone exactly, so which is the noise body, and change it to local space. One more thing which we have to do is, after we apply the copy location we are not able to move our body control. So to fix that, it's just simple. Here check this offset in the copy location. Now we can just move the body control. With this you can just adjust how harsh you want the body to be moving. But before that, what we have to make sure is that there's another constraint applied, which is copy rotation. Select our armature and then select noise body. That's too much rotation. Let's just reduce it down. You have to feel your animation yourself and see what settings really look good on it. I can also just copy these modifier applied on my X rotation with this button, copy it and apply it on Z as well. So there are more movements on different axes. It feels like it's really moving.
when we turn off our walk follow, our body is still dancing. Well, that is really good. Copy this same driver and apply it to the body controls location influence. Paste the driver and copy rotation. When the walk follow is off, nothing's happening, and when I start moving it, it's now doing everything together. One more thing guys, I forgot to tell you, there will be a problem which will be you can't rotate your body control if you want to. So for that, it's just simple, change the mix value to add, and after that you can rotate it. Also, this rig is on my Gumroad page, the link is in the description. It is a better rig with better features. You can go and download it for free, so you just have to enter 0 and download it. But if you really love to support my channel, you can enter any value above 0 and help my channel. Even 1 will help. Now for the materials, first of all I'll add a glass BSDF. After adding glass BSDF, we'll add a emission BSDF. Now we would like to connect this with a mix shader, so add a mix shader and connect it to the surface. Will emission connect to the first socket and glass BSDF to the second socket. Want to define how much of the part should be emission? Here we'll connect a node called light path. With this we'll add a math node, just a simple math node using the maximum. I will just connect is camera array, and the second one I will connect here is the is transmission array. These two will be connected here, and then I'll connect it to the factor. For the color, I will just set something to teal blue. Something like that would do for me. I will change the roughness to 0.2. Increase the strength to something like 2. And now we are almost close to what we actually want. So without the solidify modifier, it looks something like this. But if we apply the solidify modifier, it will get something like this. Let's just quickly add a plane to our scene as well, so we can see actually what is going on. And finally, the final thing, duplicate this mix shader, connect again the glass BSDF here and add a node called funnel and connect it to the factor. And also it will be better if the glass color is white. Now that we are done with that, let's just try moving our armature. How it looks when the legs are out. It's really starting to look really nice.
And that was all for this videos, my friend. Make sure to sub if you love this tutorial, and see ya in the next one. Peace out.